Okay. Yes. Obeya archetypes. These are like archetypes of any team that you're working in, couching them today in visual management and how people work together. But we're basically focusing on 8 specific archetypes. And these are patterns. They're not job descriptions. They're not roles. They're patterns. They're mindsets that create the ability for teams to operate together. And this is important because you want to recognize that no person shows up and says, I'm a scrum master or I'm a product owner, because that's really not the way that work works. You can give them those roles, but the work itself doesn't care what your role definition is. The work that says, are you capable of, do you have the sensibilities to, do you have the training to, do you focus on these various things that need to be done? And so, like, at any given point in time, I could be 5 or 6 of these things at the same time, because the work that's coming in demands that, or because I feel that way that day, or because I'm inspired. So let's talk about them a little bit. So the first one is the host, and so the Obeya Association has this as one of their roles, the Obeya host, and this is the person that facilitates the meetings, makes sure that psychological safety is maintained, handles the group dynamics. So you're noticing who's speaking and who's not speaking, noticing when there's a problem that needs to be dealt with, noticing when the way that you've been having meetings is getting stale and might need to change. It's that person that is paying attention to the social dynamics and making sure that they work. The second one from Obeya Association also is the builder, the Obeya builder. And in the Obeya builder, we have the person who is curating content and curating the space. So they're like actively going and saying, this kind of visual control would give us the information that we need in order to get our work done. It would allow us to design our spaces. It would allow us to curate the space so that the right visualizations were visible to people in the right way at the right time. Okay. Then there's the person who's the sense maker. And this is kind of a person who is noting when things are complex and then helping guide the team to deal with that complexity. So the whole team can recognize that when you approach something that's complex, that you need to get together and you need to figure out what's going on and how it's working and all of those things. But there's actually, we've worked with them. There are people who are just better at doing that than others. So it's kind of daunting when you're working along and you're not one of those people, and then you notice, oh my God, I have encountered something that's complex. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about how to set up an experiment to fix this. But if you have that person who is the sense maker, who is just predisposed to do that, or maybe a couple of people, you get together in a room with them, and then you figure out how you want to approach the problem. Okay, then there's the weaver. And so we talk all the time about how teams need to understand the strategy of the company and the direction of the project and the interrelationships of the team with other teams. But that's also not in a lot of people's wheelhouse, and we can't expect everybody to do that. So on your team, you're naturally going to have people who fall into that kind of role or who do those tasks when they come up. Hey, I went and talked to this team. I remember that we're about to make this decision, and in the strategy it says we're going to do this. The corporate strategy. How about we do these things, and then we'll be more in line with the corporate strategy. So you might have an X matrix on the wall that shows the strategy, or you might have the strategic goals written down somewhere. But there's always that person that steps up and takes on this role. Okay, then there's the processor. And this is blue because everyone ends up being this person from one time or another, whether you're super scattered or super focused or whatever. We all, at one time or another, find ourselves in that situation where we're doing the deep work, where we're really focusing, where we're really doing things, and that has a direct impact on the visualization of our work. We want to build those visuals so that we can see what is required of us at any given point in time. All right. Okay, then we have the witness. All right. So the processor, deep work, thinking about things deeply. But the witness is kind of quiet, reflective, sits in the room, processes with us, does some work with us. They might not lead all the time, but they're the ones that every so often they will speak up and they're like, I see this pattern emerging. I see this thing happening. And we tend to get down on those people because they don't participate enough. But what we don't recognize is that they're kind of the long payoff, high return kind of investment where other people might be more active every day. And because we have a bias to action, we focus on those people who are talking all the time and not those people who may be helpful yet quiet. Okay, then there's the guardian. And again, I'm saying the, but the is an archetype. So you'll find that people will be a host and a witness and a guardian and a processor all at the same time. But these are folks that are primarily, they notice when people are running out of energy. They notice when people are getting uncomfortable. They notice when there is something in the environment that requires some adjustment. All right? They're intuitive that way. And it can be any of the other people that we just talked about. This could be but this is a definite archetype. And then the last one, number 8, is the navigator. And this is the one who is always saying things like, we planned on doing this, and therefore we have to do that. We were going to do this, and you can see that things have changed, and now we have to respond in this way. We need to let these stakeholders know that this thing is going on, that this is a role, but more like it's a mindset. And there's just some people who are just really naturally good at doing these things. And when you have all of this, then you get fluidity. Nobody has to be a given role on your team in dealing with the Obeya. Everyone steps up and takes on whatever one of these 8 archetypes that they need to as the situation arises. And they might arise because you aren't a subject matter expert in one way, but you are a subject matter expert in something else. So you're much more likely to be heavily processing in one area and then lightly processing in another, or, vice versa. So we want to have successful outcomes for our team, and that requires us to understand that these different 8 patterns are there, and that these 8 archetypes give us the ability to act with confidence.